We've been trying to pick a bar for 30 minutes. It is literally impossible to be your friend. You're incapable of making a single decision.
Look, I know I can be indecisive, but what's the harm in taking a few extra minutes to find the perfect...
Welcome back, everyone, to the Anxiety 101 lecture series. I'm Dr. Jackie. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist. I did an intro video talking about what we're going to do during this series, so catch that one after you watch this one. Helps give you a little brief overview of anxiety in general and how to conceptualize it too. Like I said, I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist. I do videos on mental health issues, psychiatry, and what the training looks like, as well as commentary on mental illness portrayed in the media. If that's interesting to you, like and subscribe and join the team. Like I talked about, we'll tackle each diagnosis under the umbrella of anxiety disorders one by one, but today we'll talk about generalized anxiety disorder.
We have so many big choices to make. Let's start small. Do you want to use a dry erase board or the regular pen and paper? Just pick.
Chitty, just pick!
As you can see here, portrayed by Chitty from The Good Place, generalized anxiety disorder looks like a pattern of frequent worrying that's persistent and definitely out of proportion of the decision that he needs to make.
Getting close here. Smelling the ethical ramifications of various soups.
I could come back for a fifth time.
Yeah, maybe that's smart.
As you can see, his worrying gets in the way of moving forward in his life, just making simple decisions, and affects his functioning.
It'd be easier to sort out the issue of dry erase versus paper if I could write down the pros and cons for each. But, of course, I would have to use one of them to write down the pros and cons for them, which is problematic.
What's important here is that he has a hard time controlling his worries, and it does not look like he really enjoys worrying so much or torturing himself about what decision to make. Something else that you'll see in generalized anxiety disorder is anticipatory anxiety or apprehensive expectations. If you struggle with anxiety yourself or know somebody who struggles with anxiety, you might hear them kind of think of the worst case scenario, oftentimes plan for the worst, but never really hope for the best.
Come on, Chitty, pick someone! Don't pressure me, Uzo. I have to consider all the factors.
With Chitty, it started when he was younger on the playground and persisted into adulthood, which is very common.
Should I pick a girl as a gesture towards women's equality? Or is that pandering? Or do I think it's pandering because of my limited male point of view? I'm vexed, Uzo, vexed. You're always vexed. Just pick. Okay.
It's a running joke on The Good Place that Chitty always has a stomach ache, and this is very true. With people who struggle with anxiety, there can be a lot of physical symptoms.
Stomach ache.
Because of that, if they don't know what anxiety is or are aware of their own anxiety, they end up often going to their primary doctor because they have a lot of physical symptoms.
You know, I thought I'd have a stomach ache right now, but weirdly, I do.
For Chitty, it's a stomach ache. Oftentimes it could be a headache, but you could also feel extremely fatigued. Anxiety can affect your appetite, your sleep, and because of those disturbances, you could imagine that physically you're just not feeling very well. Anxiety can also affect your concentration and your mood. You could be irritable.
Please don't ask me that right now.
You could have a lot of muscle tension, and you could also appear very restless.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
It is important to rule out a primary medical condition like hyperthyroidism that might manifest in excessive worrying or anxiety, or even overuse of caffeine or stimulants that could manifest this way as well.
No time! There's never any time! I don't have time to study! I'll never get into Stanford! I'll let everyone down! I'm so confused! Everything will be okay. I just need one of these pills.
Once those medical conditions are ruled out, it is super important to make sure that you are not playing into the role of stigma and discrimination for people who struggle with mental health.
Indecision costs you so much agony in your life, right up to the very end.
Because of the stigma, only 30% of people do get help for their anxiety and end up struggling for longer than they need to.
I have my clothes all laid out. I even have my lunch made. Now I'm going out to stand by the bus stop.
What are you going to do out there?
Cry.
While the worries for adults generally focus on something like work, family, friends, their relationships in general, children can be a little bit more broad. You want to ask them a little bit more about fear of natural disasters, things that they see on the news, things that they see on social media, their friendships, largely school, because that's where most children spend most of their time, and even death.
Don't forget your letter combination. What's the capital of Venezuela?
When you walk around with a lot of anxiety, it's usually due to some type of cognitive distortion where we feel like the world is a scary place, or things are all bad or all good, and there's really no in between. And we end up focusing on the negative oftentimes.
I've never been more stressed out in my entire life. That was a bad idea. That was so scary so many different times. I hated that.
With Chitty, you could see that this leads to a lot of indecision. With Sally from Charlie Brown, you could see that it causes a lot of on-edge type of restless behaviors and reassurance seeking from her older brother.
Hey, big brother, wake up! What should I do if the teacher asks me something and I don't know the answer? Just tell her you don't know.
If you have other TV shows or movies that come to mind when you think of characters that struggle with anxiety and portray it well or maybe not so well, send me a message on my Instagram, Dr. Jackie, or you could leave a comment down below and I'll make sure to take a look. I think next step we'll talk about panic disorder and agoraphobia, and I have a few characters already lined up for that I feel portray it accurately. If this was interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments if you learned something new. I would love for you to reach out to me on my Instagram, like some of you have already, and I will see you in next week's video.
No, let me think about that.
No!